Thank you everyone for coming tonight. We really appreciate it, and it's nice to be able to celebrate all the new technology that's available. So thank you for taking time out of your schedules and coming and spending it with us. It's been great meeting all of you. For those of you that I haven't met yet, my name is John. I am the co-founder and CEO of Kizen. My co-founder Scott's there in the back. If you haven't gotten a chance to talk with him, please do so. You'll enjoy it. My background over the past 20 years has been spent, like a lot of you in this room, helping people adopt new technology. And 7 years ago, Scott and I had a vision, seeing what was coming with all of the new artificial intelligence and automation opportunities and how to better use data. And it's been an incredible journey, and we're so excited to be here. Along that journey, we met someone named David Rafalovsky, who, this is about to be a strong statement, but it's a true statement, is one of the most experienced people in the world with actually applying different types of artificial intelligence to business and real-world applications. And so we're really excited today to spend some time, David and I, talking with you all about what we're actually seeing people use with artificial intelligence. This is not this is what's going to be possible in 5 to 10 years. We'll talk about that a little bit, but there's going to be a heavy emphasis on what's already been done and what are we doing today. So with that, David, I'd love to bring you up.
Thank you for inviting me. I am let's just say, a former customer of Kizen. That be kind of clear. I was basically one of you, in a sense, selecting a platform to solve some of my technology issues, and decided to go with Kizen. Never. It worked out amazingly for the organization I worked for. So with that disclaimer, I was impressed enough to become a member of the board and an investor. Clearly, I did it because I believe in technology, believe in the team. His name is Winner. You can have anything I'll ever say about Kizen should start, and that Scott, you're a great guy as well, but John Winner, you have to follow him. So looking forward to a conversation. Unlike Al Gore, who invented internet, I did not invent AI. I'm the guy who typically applies it. I'm a professional CTO. I'm not going to say with how many years of experience, too many to mention. I was applying AI, not knowing it will be called AI and will become kind of obligatory technology to mention every 5 seconds. Otherwise, your resume doesn't look good. So, and I worked on a few interesting things. I mean, what John typically said, David, you need to tell about, and then there's a slew of cool projects, which actually, not that I need to be impressed with myself, but I think it's fairly unique combination of things. One of each, maybe not, but so I worked on self-driving cars, like a commercially available self-driving cars. There's maybe 10 people in the world who created commercially available virtual assistants like, Alexa or Hey Google or Siri. There are 10 of us. I am one of them. You can kind of see it's kind of AI as an underlying theme. These products became available only because AI slew of AI technology became available. So Kizen, although it did not start as an AI company, I would argue is an AI enablement company, and we'll spend more time discussing that. So with that, I think let's just start with your questions.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And thanks again, David. So David had about 50,000 engineers working for him across a number of projects in AI. And so that included building out a supercomputer and self-driving that you're talking about as well, real-world applications of robotics, one of the most effective conversational interfaces across multiple languages that was built out from scratch to resolve a significant majority of use cases that were coming in. So curious, what are, some of the most exciting ones that you worked on?
Throughout my career, and I think many of you guys in the room can, because most of you are kind of in technology field, you can probably relate. You're not starting with technology and looking for a domain or product to apply it to. It starts kind of with on the other end of the spectrum. You start with a customer need or a process problem or something which need to be resolved. And for the first time ever, and again, I'm a professional architect in the IT space, almost 30 years of experience. I always used my kind of a tool belt available, technologies available at the time, trying to come up with the most efficient, effective way of solving a particular problem. And I'm not going to be the first one to make the observation, but historically, every technology had a limit. Like, what doesn't really matter, whatever technology. I'll mention a few and see if you're old enough to remember. Remember Corba? I know you do. Remember Corba? One of the kind of original kind of object broker architectures. It's been a while. It had a limitation. Okay, it solved some things, it didn't solve some things. And when Java became available, this whole promise of cross-platform, develop once, run anywhere, every technology had a limit. For the first time, certainly in my professional career, AI does not have a limit. At least we don't see it yet. Like, we're really not. I would challenge you, give me a domain, or a product, or a process where AI, to one degree or another, not applicable. We did not reach that level, and I would argue we probably never will. Okay, so you have this super powerful technology, which is not a technology, a suite of technology, a suite of tools we can apply across very, very broad domain. And as a professional architect, for the first time ever, I can finally realize what I think is every technologist's dream. We can build self-learning architectures. I mean, you guys know how it works. How did we used to do it? In every single product we ever built, how did it work? I'm not talking about agile. Please don't get me started on this. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about where somebody has a product idea with notional set of requirements, sometimes detailed requirements, sometimes no requirement, just an idea, nothing else. Right, Scott? And then we technologists, we need to build it somehow. And we build it for the best of our ability until sort of next release. Okay, and next set of requirements, yes, we'll learn something from our kind of operational experience. We'll learn something from our customers, and then we do it again. But the product itself, the architecture itself, was never self-learning. We never had tools in our disposal to build it in such a way day one where we put this in production and we wait and we learn and we collect data. And we're saying, every time I have a decision, any type of decision process, if I collect enough data and wait long enough, I can probably use AI to my advantage to make this decision in a more automated way than I did before, or come up with better recommendations than I did before. So we never had that. So I would argue that whatever industry you spend most of your time at, whatever solutions you're building, now you can build architectures and solutions which are self-learning by design. It's new. It's still new for all of us. So to me, foundationally, I can build something I was never able to build before. What we do with it, self-driving cars, you mentioned one of probably the most impactful projects because you can count. Sometimes results are, one of my colleagues told me that, David, you're always, I like this word in English language, elegant. I do use a lot. Actually, I'm stopping myself from saying elegant. I like elegant things. I like elegant designs. So David, this whole elegant, schmelegant. You said, don't be an engineer. Stop being an engineer. Be an investor. What do you mean? Well, investor, it's simple. It's dollars, right? You make money. It's a unit of measure of success. It's success, simple. This whole architecture thing, it's not binary enough. So there are some projects where you can, in a binary way, to count you're successful or not. Sometimes you build a great product and you love it, but results are just not as impactful as you want. So every product requires some level of support, especially in banking. Customers have a tendency to call, as much as we're trying to tell them not to call, but they do call from time to time. People still, isn't it ironic? We talk about AI, but most people in our kind of personal lives still prefer some level of analog interaction. As a matter of fact, growing number of people willing to pay for analog interactions. People want to call and hear voice on the other end of the line, not an automated robotic, like an honest-to-goodness friendly voice. So in this organization I spent a few years working for, we achieved remarkable results. We built our own virtual assistant, which the first application of it was not in TVs or watches or electronics. It was kind of other end of the support requests. And more than 85% over 2 years, 85% of all requests were answered successfully with positive customer result, completely automatically in very friendly manner. Surprise, it was all AI enabled. Sometimes you can count 85% of anything is pretty good. 85% reduction of number. I guess I had to fire a lot of people. That's a bad thing. We can talk about that as well. There will be industries where certain skill sets will no longer be as needed as before. It's we need to be cognizant of it. I mean, nothing will stop because of it, but it's a kind of a sad outcome that some people will either lose their jobs or would need to be retrained to do
Right.
something else. But that's a great example where most advanced AI technology, yes, using advanced supercomputing hardware platform, were applied in a very analog way to great success.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for sharing, David. And it's interesting because we are experiencing such a worker shortage across so many of our industries right now, right? And so, how do we improve the experience that people are receiving? And I think David's sharing some examples where technology has really helped that to provide a better experience for both the company, for the people that work there, and for ultimately the customer. And so I want to loop back to something that you were saying about, this technology really having no limits and the idea of self-learning. Those of us that have worked on enterprise systems for a while have seen that you're always chasing the requirements, right? So you go through a process of defining what is this application supposed to do. You go through a months to years long, depending on what's happening, experience. And by the time that gets deployed into the enterprise is now operating a little bit differently. And then you have to go back through that months-long process. So we talk about something here a lot called process generative AI, which is looking at the way that your processes are working and being able to measure a starting point and a desired outcome and being able to tie together that data. And you have an initial process of the way that you think it should work, but the system is able to detect and be able to improve the way that your systems work and give suggestions to your team to say, hey, should we tweak this? Is there an opportunity to add automation here? Should we update one of the rules by which our business operates in this section? So I think that's some of the areas in generative AI as well where we're seeing a lot of growth in addition to all of the conversational aspects that you're talking about. So one of the conversations that we have a lot with people, and really curious to get your perspective on this, having been part of such large organizations, is if I have a team of 50 people or I have a team of 50,000, where do I start? Like, this all sounds cool, but how do I get started?
Isn't that ironic that this is 2024, it's almost 2025, and we're still talking about the numbers, the size of the organization, number of developers, or number of size of operational team. It's really a significant concern. It's something fundamentally, in my opinion, wrong with it. And the reason it's wrong because I appreciate the fact that where you have people and you have butts and seats, as we used to call them, and I spent 20 years at Citibank. All my lingo are Wall Street approved. So butts and seats, you can count how many developers you have, how many call center staff you have. It's not the unit of measure of success. It's just not. So when people ask me where to start, I would like to start with what makes you successful? What makes your product successful? And I would argue, again, I only met two people who are always right in my life. One is John Wiener and the second is my wife. At least both of them told me as such, by the way. They informed me that they're always right. The measure of success of organization, especially IT organization, cannot possibly be measured by a budget size or number of people. I would argue that going forward, it's been this way for a while, but now it's basically, it was my opinion, a universal rule. Your success is defined by the speed, and not speed of release cycle or any other of these artificial units of measure. How fast your organization, your product team, can try a new idea out. It's as simple as that. Can you try something out if a member of your organization will tell me, I have a great idea, how fast can you put this in production? How fast can you measure impact or lack thereof? And then how fast can you make a decision that this is actually working amazingly well, I want to scale and make it available for everyone? Or it's not a winner, let's kill it, move on to the next idea. How fast can you do it? Because if the guy next to you can do it in weeks and you can do it in months, you will die. You can be the most brilliant business person or technology person. Your product cannot possibly survive because they will evolve so much faster than you are. That's the competition. So it's not about number of people. It's not how the cost per developer. It's not any of these measures. It's look at the end result. And by the way, it works on every level. can work for a huge organization. You can work for a startup, as some of you do. You can have a team within a big organization responsible for a product or service. It's the same thing. How fast can you evolve? That should guide your decision process where to start. So to me, I would data enable the entire product set you have access to. Meaning, if you have a process, and every product has a implied or implicit or explicit, there's always a process, which it's something happening when people press buttons or call or any type of user interaction. If you're not capturing enough data in this process, and your boss is telling you that you need to save 55 microcents and save on the cost of Azure storage, because a typical conversation IT,
Can we ask questions now, or you want us to wait to the end?
Please.
Go ahead.
So I'm really curious
Yeah.
about it, because we're talking about an optimization function generally, and what's the objective of that? So in the past, unfortunately, I know what you're talking about when you talk about the past. It was always about speed, automation, the degree of automation, which you mentioned before. I think that's fascinating, I agree. But my question is, I'm a CEO of a startup company, and have been dealing with the issue of human and AI interaction, which means it's not only responsibility, but it's a question I have. Is really speed, because my business is not about automating environments. My business is to satisfy the end customer. And I think Kizen thinks the same way. I just spoke to some of the guys here. I think there's the same principle. So is it really about automation, full automation? Because you're right, we can do anything today. Now, the question today is like a child growing up to be a mature adult. Do we do everything? And it's a hard
You don't.
question.
You see, in my opinion, it's not. In IT, we always felt that it's on us. So, new customer requirement, new product requirement. Somebody comes, so you need to do it, and they would judge us by how fast. And it's what speed are we talking about? How fast can we go from an idea to when is going to be, which release is going to be in? Okay, I would argue that's no longer the case. Okay, because I would argue why you should be part of this conversation. Why your product or system or process designed in such a way where why for every time customer says jump, IT needs to say how high. Something fundamentally wrong with it. You're not hiring people, and I get the laptop. Okay, a laptop has Microsoft processing suite or my Office Word. You're not spending your time and saying, oh no, we'll teach you how to use it. You have basic expectation that people know how to use basic tools. Going forward, you should have your customers and your product partners would have an expectation that whatever it is you build, they can make, not everything. I'm not saying everything, just AI cannot do anything. IT should not be part of many things IT is part of. Your job is to give people an environment, a tool, a release process, and make sure they don't screw everything up. You're dealing with children. That's it. Okay, certain other things, you're not designing every single Excel spreadsheet. Let me rephrase it. Microsoft is not designing every single Excel spreadsheet or every single PowerPoint. They do okay. How come in many products we have an entirely different philosophy? Whereas IT, and we code, magical things called coding, which we can talk about that. The profession of programmers is already dying, will die completely, whereas nobody will be coding in 10 years. It's stupid job. Sorry, I'm allowed. I'm a professional programmer. It's stupid job. Okay, my job is to invent things, not to spend time. Just as we stop coding in assembly language, we'll stop coding the way we code now. Give users an ability. Users meaning your internal users who are responsible for processing. They should be making changes themselves. That's the entire. That's why I become a customer of Kizen, by the way. Number one reason, because I can say to my internal customers, take this product, I'll train you. There's no magic day one. But day two, you come up with the next improvement idea. By the way, how you come up with it? You come up with it yourself, product recommended automatically, what improvement can be made. Irrelevant. What value does IT add to saying, yeah, we should try it out?
Yeah.
Maybe it's great, maybe it's amazing. And then when they try it out, again, what value do we add to say, I want to scale to my entire population of users? If you already know it's working great, oh, we need to. It's an Amazon Web Services course. Let's sit and do. You're being judged incorrectly. That's my basic premise. You're being judged not how fast business can make a change and how delighted your customers are and how successful your organization is. You're being judged by selection of screwdriver in Home Depot.
Yeah,
That's my view. I could be wrong.
yeah, so I think there's two questions here that we're talking about. The first question was, talking about from an IT organization when you're given a task and when you're asked to do something, how quickly can we execute on that? And I think your question is also speaking to just as a company, as an organization, as a society, should we be optimizing for how fast we, automate things? And our perspective is we have to put the customer at the center of everything that we do. So similar to what you were saying. And really understanding where are there opportunities to improve that customer experience. And when I think about building an organization, I think about all of the experiences that are being had. So at the individual level, like we spend a lot of time with organizations where my team and I will go in and actually watch the people on the front lines and how they're interacting with your customers and say, is the experience that they have, like we recently met with a hospital organization. And I was following people around on the front lines, and their providers, their doctors and their nurses and their specialists were having to find data across 5 different systems to try and figure out how to treat a patient, right? So that was a very difficult process for them that was leading to the patient having to wait for things, maybe not getting the right things. So it was like, how can we create an interface where they could just have one place where they could have everything? How could we talk about using AI to help them query and have that information faster? So to me, when we think about our future and what we want to build for humanity, it's very much like all of this is built for people. We're improving our lives. How do we use this technology to make our lives better? And work, to me, is a critical part of the human experience. And what we can do is build more fulfilling, more enjoyable, more impactful jobs with technology helping us with that. And so I appreciate the question and kind of thinking, how do we fuse together and use this AI to generate better experiences for the customer, for the employee, for the management team, for the investors? I think we can deliver an outcome for everyone with this, which is sort of magical, but also very exciting. So go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to ask an impossible question.
All right.
So if Gen AI driven enterprise applications, 8 legacy software and 8 current crop of SaaS focused enterprise solutions, right? Let's say that we're about to live this dream. How do you think about that time frame, right? Like and like when are we at the point where when you're growing into a mid-sized corporation, you're no longer buying an HRIS, you're buying an ERP, you're buying a CDP, an e-commerce platform. Like if you had to like sort of be forced at gunpoint to make a prediction about when we get to this point where it's a single platform, right? I think you guys are sort of building the
Industry agnostic,
right?
yeah, use case agnostic.
And I think we're at the bleeding edge right now is my assessment of that. How do you think about how quickly this technology evolves to the point where I make electric vehicles, right? And
You'll likely get 2 different answers right now.
Yeah, I'm a 1,500 person company. Yeah. Normally, I would have an ERP system. I'd have a customer focused platform. I'd have CRM. I have all these systems. Yeah. How long until I have one platform and I tell it I need to solve these 40 use cases to make my business run, and I'm just going to ask my Gen AI based enterprise platform to just set those up, customized for my needs.
His name is Winner. Let him answer.
So I would say I would break that question into 2 parts. The first thing that I would say is every software company that you talk about that's young will say the startups of today are the enterprise of tomorrow. And even AWS says this in how they go after customer acquisition. And so when you're starting a new company and you get the opportunity to start from scratch, and we've had some very well-funded startups come in and say, hey, I want to use our product to, Kizen, the Kizen platform, to build out as much as I can possibly on it. I think that's very doable for those organizations over the course of, now if they're kind of stubborn enough, and the Gen AI co-builder isn't going to build it all themselves. That's a partnership between people and the co-builder, but we do have an industry agnostic, use case agnostic platform. I wouldn't recommend that quite yet for all use cases. I think there's some use cases, like we say Kaizen is really great for 80% of use cases today. We have a lot of development to close that gap between the other 20%. So with startups, let's say within 2 years, I think you could actually build out your entire enterprise architecture on a platform like ours. And I'm confident in that. I think we could probably do it sooner. And you can do it today if you're stubborn enough, but I like to go with the most efficient option. But then when you think about the enterprise and you say, okay, we have technology, and David can probably speak to this, that's decades old, that's in enterprises, that 10 people in the world know how to operate, right? And that's around all of we have so much legacy architecture in all our big companies. So why have they not moved to modern cloud providers? And it's like, well, because, it's just a huge pain and it's very cost ineffective to do that. I think that this next generation of platforms using generative AI for the first time changes the paradigm of how long it takes to build an application. So some of those old systems are actually where we're getting some opportunities, where people will say, we've had this thing around for 40 years, 30 years, 20 years, and no one's wanted to redo it because it was going to take so long to redo it in these other platforms or custom code a new thing. Let's test out the Gen AI co-builder with that and see if it can do it. But I don't think that you have the modern giants of today gone anytime soon. Because I think people are very tied into them and they are legacy architecture for so many people, and legacy takes a while to change. What are your thoughts?
He's in sales, so I'll remind you that.
Ask both of you.
I'll answer. You can sit down. You accused me of making you stand, and all of a sudden
I'm good.
I think investment in, actually, let me give you a little factoid, and then I'll explain why I'm starting my answer with that. So the most popular, sexy, if you will, use case for CRM, any CRM platform for the last 3 years is actually HR use cases. Not buying an HR, so but you have an HR use case, whatever it is you want to do in HR. And so you're not buying an HR platform, you're buying a general purpose CRM and you implement your HR process on it. This is exactly the thought process almost everybody will be operating under. That buying dedicated enterprise system, purpose built, labeled with the right bow on top for a use case will be an exception, not the rule. Why? Gazillion reasons, okay? And how many platforms can we live in? I mean, this is, your medium-sized company, you're living on, I don't know, 20, 30, 50 platforms. If you're lucky, it's, dozen platforms. It's too many. It's too complicated. You need to have a Joe for each and every one of them. There's always a Joe who knows how to make it work, okay? And then Joe either retires or finds something else or moves somewhere else. It's too much complexity, too many building blocks to make it agile. And then we implement an agile process on top of it and it doesn't work and you complain why it's slow. So because you're nothing about you is agile, nothing. So I think I don't see medium to large companies waking up one day and saying, oh, okay, I find a new religion, it's called Kizen or any other platform and I'll switch. No, but what will, in no likelihood will happen, it's happening already. They will stop buying purpose-built single use case platforms. They will stop creating, because guess what? All of them are claiming they have the best data platform ever invented by humankind, okay? And the only thing they do is yet another silo you need to deal with. Second reason why I became so impressed with the Kaizen, because they did data right, meaning it was my data, not their data. Salesforce, God bless them, I love them all, does not think this way. It's their data. No, so the point is, it's your data. Okay, the new oil, the existing oil, our data, it needs to belong to you. It should be easy for you to use. These guys do this right. And so getting the data so you can use it for whatever use case. You cannot even imagine what your team will come up with tomorrow. Your data needs to be ready for it. That's kind of a step one of every AI conversation. We talk about AI like I come in the morning and I can miraculously start modeling something. I can't. In vast majority of organizations, data is not available, or available, you cannot trust it, or it's available, you can trust it, but not all the time. I can keep going with this. So you need to get your data story to a point where you can actually do something useful with it. Then you need to stop wasting time and money creating new silos, be it data or technology development. And I think even Citibanks or JP Morgans, kind of large banks in Europe, if you look at their, and I spent a lot of time kind of with analysts on this on this topic, they're stop buying them. They have contracts, they go for upgrade cycles, but they basically stop buying dedicated CRM, ERP systems. Too expensive. No developers. I'm not sure if I completely answered your question. Give you kind of overall.
Give a number.
Coal still exists.
Not in the UK. They just turned off their last coal power.
How many decades did it take? Okay, so I think this is.
You're not going to give me a number.
But it's a decade. To me, it's a decade. Okay, but smart people, like really smart people who can afford it. Let's face it. Many people know what the right thing to do, but their hands are tied. They have they cannot do it, even if they want to. Because economic reality, political reality, what have you. But for people who can, the architectural blueprint is fairly clear. Need to get my data right, not invest in dedicated kind of one-use systems. You should not have 40 systems, 40 teams. You need to have ideally one or as fewest number of platforms as possible. And you need to make your organization agile, not your technology agile. For somebody, like honest to goodness agilists, you need to start measuring yourself from, the lowest person organization comes up with a great idea. How fast can you have it in production for some of your customers? And if your answer is not acceptable to you, that's what you need to work on. That's a unit of measure of success. I'm fully convinced that's the way to think about it and kind of a decision framework for IT investments going forward.
And that's the reason that we got along so well from the start is the focus on data, right? If you're going to have a conversation about anything cool about what's being built in the future, it's a data first conversation. We saw that as consultants when we were working with enterprises across dozens or 100 different systems. How do we bring that data together? And once you have that data, how do I prototype, like David's saying, and build out a use case and then see that that actually works? And if it works, how do I actually scale it up? And so to answer your question, we focus a lot on the gateway of how do we help? How do we accelerate that roadmap? How do we help people have this technology in their organization faster? So innovating around how do we help people integrate the data, solve data conflicts, and then the applications on top of it is where we focus. So hopefully very, very soon. Curious, any other questions from the audience that people have questions on, or we can ask one or two more up here. Go ahead, Jim.
Hi, Jim.
Thanks. A lot of companies they've invested in a technical, David, to your point, I just can't start over. In order to use Kaizen, do I need to abandon what I have and just start again? Or how do I go from today to tomorrow?
Yeah. You want to start, or you want me to
No.
start on that one? So our expectation is never that an organization that's functioning today, that has dozens of critical systems, that has tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of employees, is going to up and change their entire architecture. That just doesn't happen. So what we have to do is we have to find a place to start and find a use case where we can attach ROI to that use case and understand this is an area where here's our thesis, we think this can help. It needs to be integrated with these core systems, and let's execute a prototype against that. So our platform is really built to be a gateway to help you connect all of your legacy tools today and be able to build that bridge to tomorrow with one new application at a time. And give you that ability to modernize as much as you want, as fast as you want, and then we can see whose time predictions.
I'm a color commentary to Tom Brady and Monday Night Football, whatever he was doing nowadays. You know why John is so confident? It's difficult for sales guys to say, we don't need to change everything at once. We come in, we're a little add-on, let's start small. The reason you're so confident in starting this way, because time and time again, Kaizen customers, you know what else I can do with it? So it's always happening. And the reason it's happening because it's not and that you'll probably yell at me by saying it, but it's not an IT-centric platform. It's really not. It's not. It's great for IT. It's a great IT enabler of IT agility. It's great for data, all this other IT stuff. But it really is for the end user. And when you, as a kind of IT or product provider, say, "Look, I'm empowering you." Not everything, but you can do things without bothering me every 5 seconds. You can implement improvements rapidly. It's an entirely different conversation. So that's why John is so confident to say you could start small and then it's just a matter of time. A kind of a product was always leads to here's what else we can do with it.
Yep.
So what about adding on to that small business end? So 50 and less, and have no actual tools.
Yeah.
It has Excel, has
Great,
very few.
amazing. I'm very envious you have nothing.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that question. So it's funny, Scott and I started working together when we were 13 years old. We started our first business then. And our vision with Kizen was to be able to build a platform that was, first of all, enterprise grade, that the largest companies in the world could come, that it could handle their scale, that it could handle their compliance requirements, that it could handle the diverse needs of all of those different aspects of the organization. But it was also easy enough that I could have used it when I was 13. And so we are just now getting ready to release our ability for people to come to our website and sign up and actually start using our platform for free. And so, like David said, I envy you kind of being a young business getting able to get started. We have had a number of extremely well-funded startups come to us and say, they have experienced CTOs who said, I did the Salesforce thing. I did the whole ServiceNow thing. And I'm wondering, is there something else? There really hasn't been a viable alternative. There's kind of tools out there like Airtable and Monday that your business is going to outgrow. And so we wanted to build a platform, and you can certainly get started. You can build those first workflows. You can have your initial CRM, your initial orders, your initial workflows, your team on there, build everything out for delivery and marketing and sales, and kind of have that in one place. And what's beautiful about that, we do a lot of work in the insurance brokerage business. And originally, when we were first working there, we would only work with clients who were, spending $1 million a year or more. And what we've now been able to release is that technology down at the $20 a month level, right? So that's kind of like proof of this idea of you can start using it. And the idea of like startups of today or the enterprises of tomorrow in the insurance industry, when you're brokerages, they call them a general agency when they're first getting started, all the way up to an FMO or IMO. And what we've been able to do is take that technology and make it so that when you're just getting started with yourself or your few other agents that you work with, you can use this technology, because traditionally people would have to move 3 separate times as they grew their business. And so now you can start on a platform that that the biggest companies in the world are using and know that it can grow with you, which we think is really cool. So we'd love to talk more about that because I love startups. It's a passion of mine. So thank you for that question.
There are two comments I'll make. Kizen always aimed at kind of MS Office level of complexity in terms of maximum level of complexity. So if they don't release their product if it doesn't pass this kind of simplicity test.
Yeah.
Why? Because they don't want to invest in training. That's my answer. But they're saying is they really care about their users. All jokes aside, it should not be complicated because they're aiming for that level of kind of, if people are comfortable using Excel, they should be able to use it.
Drag
That's
and
one.
drop. Yeah.
Two, I'm not even going to give you an example of how powerful the iPhone or whatever Android device you have in your pocket, but you guys realize there are 10 phones of any relatively recent phones, you put them together. This is it's a 10th most powerful supercomputer of 10 years ago. 10 phones. The amount of power you have in your pocket is mind-blowing. It's what John described as, to me, it's equivalent of that. You can build a CRM, an HR, any process you want for tens of dollars per month per user. This is your people literally spend multi-year, multi-million-dollar budgets on very large organization to get accomplished exactly that. Not too long ago. So I'm envious of you that you have no legacy. I'm envious that you have a huge business of 15 people. Good for you, and hopefully there are platforms that can be really helpful, really fast at very little investment up front.
Cool. Well, we have time for one more question, so we'll do that, and then I hear the bar's still open, so we'll wrap this up. And thank you, everyone. I know we've went a little over on time for the discussion, but it's been great. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's something you said about aspiring to be industry and use case agnostic. I'm curious where you guys see the most value in Kaizen in the future. Like, do you want to like possibly double down on a specific use case? You know, that you're seeing like a lot of early traction, or do you feel like chasing the long tail, I guess, has more like kind of
Yes.
value?
My
Oh, so sorry, just to add on to that, I think you brought up an example about coding. So I think like there's applications coming out specific towards like cursor AI, things more on like the healthcare, agricultural ways.
yeah.
Do you feel like, you know, like there's going to be those nuances, data related as well as process oriented?
Yeah.
You know, it might be like stretching your company a little bit further out. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, it depends how big you grow. But yeah, great question. One of the things that David said earlier as well is that kind of he doesn't see these use case specific platforms being very popular in the future. And so I think we get back to why do they exist? So originally everyone started coding and everyone had to build custom tools and it took a long time and it cost a lot of money. So platforms started coming out. And they were able to basically cut the amount of work you had to do in half. Let's say Salesforce versus custom coding a CRM or ServiceNow versus a workflow platform. But the thing is, you were still writing a ton of code. You were still engaging developers. It was still very time consuming to do. And then you'd buy these purpose built tools and you'd still have to customize them a ton. And the problem, so like you went to the platform, then you went to more specialization. But what we saw firsthand is as these platforms became more specialized, they typically became less useful because they were less flexible. So our guiding vision when we started this was to think from a technology perspective, how do we build flexibility into what's able to be done? And if you build a system that is infinitely flexible, then it can be used for so many different things. Now, our website is about to have a specific section on it for insurance. And in about 3-4 months, it's going to have another section for healthcare. So yes, we are going to have our platform with specific templates in place for those businesses to speed their ability. But by building an industry agnostic, use case agnostic platform, you can then layer on templates on top of it, and people can customize it to their heart's content to make it match their business. And so our thought process of thinking very abstract and saying, how do you build something that solves a lot more problems is why the Kaizen journey has taken as long as it has to build this platform, but I believe will be the defining decision that when you look 10 years from now, how did Kaizen end up so successful? It's because of our focus on flexibility, which flies in the face of everything that VC has been saying for the past 5-10 years, which is like build something very narrow to a very small use case that serves this group very well. Yes, you can get efficiencies in how you go to market with that, and our marketing will be highly specialized, and our deployment teams will be highly specialized, but the technology needs to be flexible. And then what you can do with it is pretty cool. Thoughts?
You understand why he had to answer this question and not me? I will just a little bit of implementation reality.
Yeah.
At least today, specialty products come with specialty data models. Okay. And it helps you a great deal day 1, day 2, day 3, like kind of a very early phases of your project. Your question is very smart, and I would, no, it's not, what do I know? I'm just telling you what my experience tells me will happen, and then John makes all the decisions. They will not be chasing a long tail. There's no point to it. They will continue to invest in big, reusable, we call them templates, call them model, call them whatever you want. A way to get started quick in a particular industry, because somebody needs to tell you how to set up. Are you doing it for a call center? You do it for HR? You do it for, by the way, even HR, it's a domain, it's not a process. It could be 55 different processes under HR. If Kaizen comes with a starting point for each and every one of them, that's all you need. Okay, and this is really where we're going. The reason they spend so much time in the insurance industry because it's very quick to see a lot of success in the insurance industry. It's very quick to start with Kaizen at the industry because they have starting templates for it. But the speed with which they can come up with the startup template for next industry or next process, it's weeks. So, but I don't see them chasing kind of esoteric processes. I don't know an example where being everything for everyone was successful as a strategy, and that's not what Kaizen is aspiring to do. It is a design philosophy for their technology underpinnings. There's no limitation. There's always limitation. Philosophically, design-wise, there's no limitation. That's what John is trying to sell to all of us, and I think very successfully. So again, thank you very, very much.
Awesome. And thank you, David. Really appreciate you being here. And thank you, all of you, for spending the evening with us. So I hear we still have some food and the bar is still open. So we have a little bit more time together, and we'd love to meet you all in person a little bit more as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, John. Amazing as always.